Okay, all right. I think we already got to get started. Yeah, Assalamualaikum and very good evening, depending on where you are. I again will thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This is our last webinar of the year for the year. My name is Ahmad Sharainun. I'm currently working as a managing director at Microcorp Sdn Bhd. We are a leading provider of integrated workplace management, and I will be responsible for hosting and speaking for today's webinar. Okay, today's session, I think we're going to recap on what we have been for the past 1 year and maybe for the past 2 years ago, which is this will be our final series for our 5 series webinar about multiverse digital twin. I think we have been hosting a series of webinar, and our webinar basically revolve around one theme, and which is we are talking about digital transformation in facility management. As what you all know, you heard, and maybe some of you already joined us since a first series of webinar, maybe for this year, maybe for last year. So we have been talking about digital twins. Digital twin is a virtual model of a process, product, or services, which is combining the virtual and physical worlds. We will having a data, then later on we do a data analysis, and then we continue to do a system monitoring, whereby we can use to identify the problem that might arise, avoid the downtime, create a new opportunity, and even simulate the futures to make a plans. I think therefore this webinar aims to highlight the pain point when we are dealing with the digital transformation, especially when we are dealing with creating a digital twin element. Be part of our contract documents, operation manual, operation maintenance activity, preventive activity, space management activities, and many more that normally we conducted, or maybe we are doing it during the operation of the facility management. And so there is a additional knowledge that requires us before we go and implementing, or maybe we managing the facility from contractual perspective, operation perspective, a strategic perspective, to ensure our contracts, our obligation always been updated in line with the technology transformation that normally, or maybe currently, we are doing in our organization. Before I start further, I have a few housekeeping items. Everyone is actually on mute. If you have any question for me today, I'm going to speak about this leading digital twin, and please free to enter them into a chat box, and I will be addressing question at the end, or maybe in the middle of my session. Or maybe if you want to speak, you can raise your hand at the participant section, and then you can unmute yourself and ask questions. And I would like to inform you that this also been recorded, and our recorded version for today's webinar will be normally available on demand after the live session. Okay? So I would like to bring, for today, this is our last webinar series for the year. We are talking about leading digital twins, right? Of course, before I reach to this topic, or we talk about this theme, multiverse digital twin, I would like to bring back to the history, or to the previous event that we are creating it via the online, like what we have it in early, or maybe mid of year 2020 during the COVID. Now we are bringing topic about the I in BIM. Why we are actually started with the I in BIM? Because this is where the information that actually been created during the implementation of BIMs, building information modeling, when you start designing, constructing, or maybe handing over the buildings to the people. So we bring the eye in beam in the middle of the year. I think middle of the year in year 2020, we introduce it to markets. We introduce it to the digital community or maybe to the social media community. We bring many people to talk what is the eye in beam with the catchy film title, which is "Catch Me If You Can." So it's like you need to catch the information if you can. Whether you cache it or whether you created it in the beginning, later on you are unable to cache the information for you to doing your activity, or maybe you are unable to grab this information when you want to hand over, or maybe after the operation period, or maybe during the operation period. That's why we bring to the audience, or we bring to the public that the eye in beam, how can we handle it? So we have we invited many speakers. Some you can see that catch me if you can, catch me if you can, or catch us if you can. Or I think we have derived from many perspectives. To talk about the information in building information modeling, because later stage when during year 2022. We've been talking about digitals or multiverse, digital twin. These information are very, very crucial for us to conduct or to implement the digital twin. We started from the information from the space management perspective, the inventory of the space, started from the designing, constructing, and then operation. And we talk about the importance of the asset inventory that you build up the models, that you already draw the space and you start filling in all the assets inside the BIM models, and later on you complete the model and then start to hand over to your clients or maybe to the facility management contractor or operator, because they are going to use this information. Then we talk about that the imitation game, predictive analytics in FMs. So this where the the imitation game is actually the title of the movie. So the imitation game is talk about how they are actually. If you saw this movie, we are talking about they are actually trying to grab the information, translate it to the meaningful information there, where they can make use this information for other things. So this is where we take this movie title. So we want to explain, we want to bring the attention that the eye that you created, so you require to translate it for other people to use, or maybe you need to share it for others to use the information. So that's why the imitation games, predicting analytics. Again, the information that we created is useful for us to do a further analysis, further analytical activity. Maybe today we talk about the big data. So the eye that we created can be used as a fundamentals of the big data element that you want to achieve. So that's why when we are dealing with the data, like I always say, data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. When we talk about digital twins, this is where we want to make use of all this information that being created for us to do the wisdom. For us to achieve the wisdom of why this data are being created. Of course, from the facility management perspective, so these data are very critical for them. So if the eye is not being created properly, so they might not able to use this information that been put inside the BIM model for their day-to-day operation. Okay, so garbage in, garbage out. So that's all. This is the always situation whereby when we see the models or we see the information either in the 3D model or in the 2D drawings, sometimes this information are not very good, or maybe because of their don't understand why they created the information and for whom or for who are going to use the information. So when we discuss about digital twin, it's always about how can we bring these two physical and virtual together and be linked up by the processes, and this process activity is actually use the information that been created by others or by people before, maybe by the consultant, BIM modeler, draftsman, the QS, maybe the people that are handling documentations, you know, when they are doing the construction. So this information is, if we are not carefully manage this information, so we are going to get a side effect from the other people that are going to use this information for the operation. So like we always give the terminology or theory about the iceberg theory. So the information that we see in the model is when we see it as a graphical information, but underneath that graphical information, we consist a lot of information that actually useful for the client or for the FM operator, for the FM consultant, or maybe for the subcontractor of the facility management. And then later on, we we also touch about the future workplace. You know, so the future workplace that's also involved in the digital twins. You know, this is where the wisdom is. You know, so when we have all the information right in the BIM models, you know, we start to look on how can we use this information to get the future workplace. Maybe to use it for us to manage the future workplace for our guests, for our client, internal client, external client. You know? So we have this session also, and then all this information, you know, the information that being created, you know, later on being extended into a code. Into a text. You know, the text normally we use. The famous one recently is about the QR codes. You know, so of course before the QR codes, you know, we use the barcodes. You know, maybe before the barcode we use number that we write the asset. Maybe we have a sticker that we put on the every space, or we put the sticker at the assets, you know, as part of the identification of the assets itself. Later on that we also discuss about how can we make use about how can we make use the space information, and how can we understand the space information related to the building performance. You know, so these are the activity that when we handling this digital twin activity. So we want to measure the building performance. Of course, it's not just about the building, but it's also we also focusing about the spaces that we created for the people to use. You know, so this performance, the building performance is also important for us to evaluate whether the facility that being created is useful, or is effective, or is efficient. You know, or people happy with it. You know, or maybe the customer satisfied with the space or the building that they have or they use. You know? So this series of webinar actually we end up like digital twins. You know, it's a collection of our projects, a collection of our pain point that when we implement digital transformation, when we implement digital asset management, when we implement space management, or even the preventive and corrective, or maybe audits of the building itself. You know? So all these pain points we highlighted up in this webinar, and we share, or we bring the speaker, other speaker, external speaker, to share their insight about their experience. You know, to their experience when they implement, or maybe their works in the environment. You know, so by having it, you know, so we can at least, you know, people can pick up some of it, and then maybe can use it for their day-to-day activity, or maybe their future plan. You know, so for example, like getting ahead of needs and risks. You know, this is about space management. So how can we establish the needs of the space and the risk that you want to manage? The risk can be minor, can be major. You know, but sometimes Sometimes the risk is very important in relation to the facility management contracts, in relation to the clients, So I designed this topic so for us to understand that space is important. If we understand the needs, we can manage it well. If we also understand the risk, we can reduce the risk to others. And not only that, I also share about how can we measure the rooms, in order for us to fulfill the information or the eye that we created, whether we understand this measurement, the size, the square feet, and how can this information relate back to the building performance. Yes, again, when after COVID, when we start to share about chargeback, the evolving of workspace, people not attend to their workspace anymore, maybe people work at home, or maybe they work from homes, they no longer require their spaces, end up that the client or the organization lose a lot of money by having the space but never being utilized properly. And again, how can we use FCA, Facility Condition Assessment, in order for us to audit the facility, or maybe say audit the spaces, audit the assets, So because at the end of the day, we want to know whether our asset is in a good condition, our budget is properly been done based on the fact and figure came from the assessment activity, and it's not just from the history of the contract, history of the previous contracts, So we need to prepare the right way of identifying the cost of the asset. The cost to maintain the asset or to manage the asset is not just based on the previous contract figure. We need to get a procedure, a process whereby we call it maybe facility condition assessment, building condition assessment been performed by the building surveyor, So whereby that information is very pertinent for us to use it to create the future budget. So by having this facility condition assessment, so we can identify which asset that we require for attention, which asset that require the major changes, the replacement, and we are able to come up with a good justification. It's not just based from the hearsay or from the from the thing that we thought, or we feel, or maybe because of people start to lobby you with the new asset that you're supposed to purchase, So we need to do it properly, so then our budget is always correct, and we justify it according to the facts. When we can do a proper asset planning, proper strategic planning in relation to our maintenance activity, not just about the maintenance activity, but it's our human resource planning, our contracts planning, so a lot, by having this FCA. And then later stage in 2022, we start with the battle of digital transformation in facility management. We touch base on each aspect of the facility management contracts from the digital perspective, from the start of the contract, understanding that the contract is always the guardian of the FM activity. So we believe that when we manage the contracts, so we use the contract document as part of our Bible or our reference point, So and then when we have the contracts, we start to look on the space management. So this is the pain point whereby people don't look about the space management when they want to manage the contracts. Bear in mind that their contract value is based on space management, based on the figure of the space. But yet they are not managing the space right from the inventory of the space goes to the utilization and occupancy. And at the same time, they want to manage energy management. They want to manage life cycle costing, but yet they have forgot about the information of the asset is not being managed properly. Oh, sorry, the information of the space is not managed properly. They are not up to date. They don't know the size rightly. Maybe they don't know whether the size has impact to their contract values. So this is the why we bring this topic in our 2022 Battle of Digital Transformation in Facility Management before we landed in digital twins, because this activity is actually interrelated each other. After the space, we touch base about the assets. The asset also, sometimes people are not managing the inventory rightly. They just have a figure which is nobody check it whether the quantity is correct or whether the location in the right space, whether they still can use this asset or not, because again, they never do the FCA to the assets, but maybe they are focusing on their preventive, or maybe they are focusing on their corrective activity. But yet, whatever the information that they have, they forgot to update the asset information. And when they want to do for the refurbishment works, retrofit, or maybe replacement works, maybe upgrading works, so they are not basic on the right information to come up with the figure for them to get endorsed for the budget approval or for the contract approval. And maybe they are not, they thought that this asset is not important for them to have the information properly. Whenever they want to have a project later on, maybe they come up with a suggestion what thing to be replaced instead of looking what currently they have, whether their current system are capable to be extended, or maybe their current system actually been designed, been over-designed, So maybe because of that, they forgot to use this information. They just focusing on what asset need to be replaced, and they just based on that to do a new statement. And on the after that series, we are also bringing a series about operation and maintenance to relate back to the asset management. Whereby the information in the operation maintenance is also useful. It's like comes after each other. We have space information, we have asset information. Later on, we use of the space, the asset together for the operation maintenance, and we get the new information, whereby this information later on we use it for the predictive, or maybe for the predictive or predictive and preventive, or what else they use? They always use the words predictive. Or I forgot another words. Okay, and this also lacking of this managing the information on the operation maintenance, end up like we are not having the right personnel, the right time to maintain the asset. Sometimes we have a digital system and we don't want to do it properly. We are unable to cache the information, like the time we spend to do the corrective maintenance, the part we use to do that work order, the spare part that we need to have in order for us to conduct the preventive maintenance. So this is all revolving about the operation maintenance, and this asset information are going to be useful when you want to plan your future activity. For example, you want to plan when you want to conduct new preventive maintenance by having the historical operation maintenance activity that you already conducted. Again, it's a huge information from space, asset, and now we end up like many more information. I continue to the next slide, and then we talk about the process improvement. From this space, asset, and operation maintenance, normally we can actually, from the information, we can focus about the process improvement. But again, because the information is not being captured properly, and the process improvement is not started correctly. Maybe we just focusing on the process improvement, not from the roots, just focusing from the tops, you know. So, and maybe the cost we can save if we know the information from the root. It's like a root cause analysis, you know. So, but because of we are not capturing the data, we are not use the information that we have, so we are unable to come up with the root cause analysis properly. Because when you want to conduct a root cause analysis, all these data needed in order for you to come up with a good process, root cause analysis result. The 5 times of why we ask, you know, normally maybe you use a SWOT analysis, you know. So again, this data need to be blend together with your finding when you do the SWOT analysis activity. And when you want to conduct the 80-20 activity in your quality management aspects, or maybe part of your quality management technique. So you want to identify how can I do 20% to get 100% results. So this data actually supporting it, and then you can have a very good analysis result if you have a good data. Otherwise, you know, your results for that analysis is still creating another problem in the future. Okay, and we also touched base about the IT infrastructure. The IT infrastructure, when we have all this information, perhaps maybe the IT infrastructure that maybe you famous, or maybe you easy for you to use is you use Excel, pivot tables, you know. So it's good enough, you know. But again, one building have many data, and sometimes you require a proper tools like Power BI, you know, for you to do the analysis. And I think that's where the IT infrastructure from start of the processing the data, or maybe the IT infrastructure for the people to support them when they want to conduct the operation maintenance activity. So this also need to be adhered, and many of organizations fail to look on this due to the issue of cost, for example. Maybe they thought that by having the mobile application, iPads, you know, mobile device is costly to the organization. Bear in mind, you know, all this time response that they're saving actually much bigger aspect that they can harvest if they invest the good IT infrastructure. Invest not just a good, properly good and properly been done IT infrastructure. They're not just looking on the aspect of the cost, but looking on the coverage, the effectiveness of the tool being used by the operation team, you know, the feedback of the operation team, the things that they need to improve, you know. So this is, we cannot run away actually from this IT infrastructure from now on. I mean, maybe those days you use pen and pencils, you use forms, you know. You need to do further activity. You save time, you save money on having internet connection, but then you spend back for the people to come up with the reports, to do reporting, to do the analysis, you know, to do the Excel tables, you know, key in data, you know, so many more, you know. So all this time, extra time, overtime paid, you know, what they call the stressfulness of the staff, you know, to process the data, and then end up you got the last minute data, you are able to use the proper mindset, you know, to make decision, you know. So this is very critical. That's why when we talk about the IT infrastructure, you don't just look on the price that you pay for the internet connection, but you look back, what if I don't use it? What if I don't use a good bandwidth? What if I don't go for the high speed line? You know, what is effect on my operation? So the time that impact to my operation will be bigger. You know? That's where the 80-20 analysis is important. Okay, here I think because of that, people maybe fear about the technological change. You know, people fear about if I decided everybody use mobile apps, you know, maybe they don't want, I mean, maybe the staff don't want them to be monitored. So maybe people don't want to use this mobile device because they're thinking about they've been monitored. So again, all this fear is actually hindrance for people, for the organization to invest on the technology. So, but again, if we decided not want to use the handphone, or maybe we decided we use back the Nokia 3310. So maybe I believe that, for example, maybe you said that if you want to work here, we only allow you to use 3310. Maybe nobody would like to go or work in your organization just because of the use of the old technology. Just because we want to, we scared that people are monitoring us. We scared a lot of things. We fear about this technology change will affect our organization. I think I think this fear of technology is changes from time to time. Changes. Maybe those days they're scared to go to internet. Now maybe it's a different. Maybe the fears is on telegrams. The fears on people hacks. Maybe there is an organization that those days when we did the implementation, they said that no mobile apps. So people we hack our IT infrastructure from your mobile apps. That fear happened, even though the IT people are senior enough, experienced enough, but they still have this kind of fear in their organization. But again, technology change, from time to time. We also change from time to time. We also getting older. And so, but we need to adapt the changes and try to figure out how can we use this technology, and how can this technology that we invested benefit to us. And the reality of it, we need to do not just looking on one side. We need to look on the bigger side, like the impact on the organization. For example, if you you don't use any email system, do you think that you can get projects? So nowadays, you just rely on the fax machine. Nowadays people start to send contract using the Ariba, for example. So if he doesn't know how to use the other application, so you are going to miss the opportunity. Okay, so the fear of technology need to be overcome. You cannot just lay in your organization forever. You need to overcome time to time, change time to time. And of course, the proper planning on technology is important. So you cannot just immediately upgrade things, but not looking on what happened after the update or upgrades. For example, like you want to update the Samsung phones. Before you update, you need to study first. If I update, or maybe you need to do the study from the review of other people that are updating it. The review important. You can actually prepare the risk. Okay. Then we enter to the industry readiness in facing of digital era. We are introduced to the multiverse digital twin. This is the series of webinar that we conducted this year, starting from March to the end of the year. I think I missed the last series due to a lot of things happening. And we start with about this multiverse digital twin with the introducing of traverse to the digital world. So we start looking on what happened in the digital world. We talk about the IoT revolution of IoT. We talk about the clouds. We move to the artificial intelligence. So the digital world is not just a universe; it's like multiverse. Everybody are actually using digital twin without knowing it. So maybe we declare digital twin, but we doesn't know what does the meaning of digital twin. It's a lot, you know. So that's why we bring different perspective. We bring different experts to talk from a different perspective. Race against the tradition. We bring the Professor Dr. Roslan Ismail, you know. So he's an expert in IT, you know, handling how the IT or maybe the evolution of IT in the forest management. You know? So we thought that it's only in the building that we want to manage the facility. But then again, the expert deploy how they manage digital facility in managing a forest by having a lot of devices, you know, by utilizing the drone. It's not just a drone, you know, but maybe the result from the drone, you can calculating the numbers of trees that in future they can harvest, you know. They can, like, we thought that we are calculating the asset information in the building, you know, but the Professor Dr. Roslan actually utilizing his expertise on managing facility, transform it to the managing the forest. He can calculate the numbers of trees that currently he have it in his land, maybe in the certain sector of the forest in Malaysia. You know? So these are also important, you know, but how can they use this? You know, that's why I say I bring it not just from the perspective of managing facility of buildings, but also we bring it over to the how this knowledge can be transferred to managing forests. So that's why we invite him to share his experience, how did he perform on utilizing this inventory of the space, you know, inventory of the assets, you know, deploying of the activity, and then start utilizing the sensor that they have in the drone, you know, or maybe the images of the drone, you know, they do the further processing, and then they are introducing the AI to calculate the numbers of trees that been planted or maybe automatically been planted by ecology of the tree. And we bring then we also talk or bring a speaker to talk about the revolution of the data integrity recently. Data integrity is important. I explained earlier, maybe those days, we talk about the quality of information in the BIM. Later on, how can we confirm the information that being used for operation maintenance? We take care of the integrity of the data, because later on this data being used to produce results, being used to decide the expenditure, to decide the budget. So how can we assure that data is the data integrity is high? We don't want people manipulating the data. So how can we protect this? You know, so that's why we bring the expert to talk about it, and when we transform it, we transfer or we integrate it, you know, we adopt it to when we want to manage the facility. Maybe during the digital twins, you know, when we talk about the security element of the system, we require a higher security level because we are start utilizing the cloud management. We no longer have a data center in our facility. So the security of the clouds, you know, the confidence level, the risk management of the information in the clouds, how can they protect it? The information or the data information in the cloud, how can we ensure that the cloud operator protect our information? So this is also important because to make sure that the fear of technology will reduce. Okay, we don't want them to have, like, maybe we already clear up the fear of utilizing the mobile app and everything. Then we say that no, your data is inside, is not in the server room in our office, but reside at Singapore, maybe reside in Hong Kong. So these people will start asking how secure the system that you use to install our data. So this is the integrity of data being questioned. Who can access it? Can people access it, use our information, use our data? So this is all the question that been asked during my experience, my activity, implementing this digital application, how assure you that if the server down or if the cloud down, I still can use the system. How fast that the system can be set up and running. So because we can't see the server, we can't see the data anymore. So this kind of question will ask repetitively, from many levels, from the operation, from the technical level up to the strategy level, and maybe up to the client level. So this is the when we are entering the multiverse of digital twins, so these are the things that we need to prepare. And then competitiveness of the digital era. Okay, so how competitive enough our solution provider? Are they new? Are the price is competitive? Are the system are competitive? Are the system are sustainable to compete? Are you changing the system every time? How many times you upgrade the system? So because these people want to look not just about competitive of the digital era, because the client want to compete among others client when they decide to use about this digital twin element. They want to know, because maybe they use this information, use this solution to increase their market share, to make their client confident. So, okay. So, and last, I'm talking about the leading digital twin. So now you can see the evolution of knowledge, the evolution of sharing topics by topics, in order for us to become leader of digital twins. All this series is being created for us to either build up the skill, build up the knowledge in terms of our team, in terms of your client team, in terms of your contractors, in terms of your workers, So they need to have all this, not just a knowledge, but also a skill. But of course, this knowledge and skill is not difficult to develop. It's not difficult to develop because of that is we utilizing this digital element every day. Every day. Every day, every minute, every second, you have your phone, maybe you have your watch, you have your computers, Maybe your TV also is no longer you only watch YouTube. So maybe you only watch news in the YouTube, so you no longer see the real TV. So like I said, it's not difficult, but the important one is that whether we have the attitudes, we have a good behavior, good governance, whether we have a good spirit to adopt the technology in order for us to become a leader of the digital twin. Okay? Or maybe leader of the digital application. It can be a leader in terms of contractor that leading the adoption of the digital application in order for them to save or to move towards to efficient management, towards to saving time, to the changing the way business, the way normal business that they do, to create the innovation mindset in their organization. So these are the things that nowadays people start looking. For example, client is no longer go for customer satisfaction. They want to have a customer experience. How can we transform from the customer satisfaction to the customer experience? If you want to buy a Nike shoe or maybe Adidas, if you don't have feeling to wear it, how can you get a satisfaction? So you need to have this experience. Okay, and again, how can this customer get experience for utilizing digital application? How can they say that this building is very good? Because they have something that I never experienced in any place, and this experience is wonderful. Because the experience is important because it's set in the mind, it's set in the heart, it's set in the mind, and it's set in the heart. And is stay there longer. If you have a bad experience, also be careful. Okay, if the customer have a bad experience, be careful. You need to better have a quick change plan, in order to erase the experience, erase their memory, so then they can remember that they will no longer get a bad experience in your organization or in your facility. Okay, so leading the digital twins, this is a series of series of events that we conducted earlier in order to bring us to become a leading to the digital twin. So I open to any question. We want to answer any question about this. We're not yet designing the 2023 event. And again, we would like also to thank to CIDB to give us the opportunity to host this event from the 2022 until today. Talking about digital application. Thank you to Puan Sherin. Trusted us to conduct this event on behalf of the CIDB. We'll talk about the digital application. And guys, any question you can feel free to ask. I'm ready to answer your question. Okay, I have one. Is there any sample live project implementing digital twin? What are the challenges that you are faced? Okay, Syahmi Mahmud Sayuki. Okay. So I can because the project is not being declared as digital twin, but the component of that project has a digital twin component. Okay, because the project we talk about BIM for FM. Okay, but the element of the component inside that project has a element of digital twin. Okay, of course, it's not reaching to the maximum level. But the infrastructure, the fundamental is there. But they need to add other things like, for example, we have space management, we have asset management, we have operation maintenance, everything is all digital. Again, to do a digital twin, we need to also have the, even though we also integrated with the building automation, okay, we need to have the element of the IoT, the sensor. And we need to have the element of the people start to reserve the room because we want to collect the utilization and occupancy information. We start to use the condition assessment tools to conduct the survey. We start to analyze the performance of the staff from the result of the preventive or corrective maintenance activity and from the result of the impact to the asset. Okay? The sample is there, live projects, but to reach to the real digital twin, we are not there yet. But the fundamental of it is there. Okay, and what are the challenges that you face? Okay. The challenges is actually in the topic that I presented earlier, from one webinar to another webinar. So each segment has the challenges. Okay, we start from the space information. There is also a challenge, because when we harvest the digital twin, when we harvest the digital in the model is already created. Okay. So when we start to look back on the space management, a lot of issues that we need to make them to be corrected. So each of the topic that I conducted in this series is actually based from our challenges, based on our bad experience. I didn't say bad experience. A good experience we can share with others. How can we implement the good BIM or the good fundamental when you want to implement digital twin? Okay. Recently, there is a people call tender. They call about digital twins. So it's good, good initiative, good startup. Of course they got all the element, but again, all the element is not be integrated as per a project. So if they can integrate as a project, put the right justification, put the right specification, I think they can have a cheaper solution. Otherwise, you like silos. You don't integrate things in order. So, and the best part is that if I were going to propose or were want to propose a new future digital twin, so I'm going to propose my new application is talk about maybe the block change. I will integrate my block change application as a digital FM, whereby we can use it more easier more bigger scopes, more easier to integrate things, so this is what my not my dream, but my initiative for next year. We want to start to use the new application of FM that we are designing from the blockchain platforms, and I believe we can do a lot easier integration with any other application that actually that client have. Where can I have the knowledge and the technical expertise to implement this opportunity in my company? May I know, Muhammad Nur Salam, you are in what kind of business? Where you are facility management or you are a client? Muhammad Nur Salam. Okay, right now, okay, construction. Okay, you can start with a BIM. I think you have a BIM already. Maybe I understand. I believe maybe you already have implemented BIM. Okay? You can start with the BIM implementation, and believe me that when you start the BIM implementation now compared to last time, compare you couple of years back, I start with the BIM in 2010. Okay, 2010. We don't even have a BIM guideline those days. But now, I think if you start your activity in BIM right now, it's easier because you get many graduates that have knowledge on BIM, digital construction. You can easily get the talent, in the markets, and they are eager for the jobs, Maybe because of the lack of project right now, maybe people are looking for a project, or maybe these people also looking for the company that have a project. Okay, wait, I will. So from the initiative of BIM, you can start to think about, I want to do BIM for facility management. So you can start to do planning properly instead of when you complete your BIM, only you thinking about we should have the, or when you complete your BIM, we should have the proper space information. We should have a right asset information. But right now, to do it is easier, faster, and cheaper because the learning curve is actually is flattened now. Those days, like it's climbing. Okay. So knowledge, technical expertise. I'm very close with few universities, UTM, UITM, UTHM. But again, for the university that I'm very close because we are having a software grant with them, and we also have a good relationships. UTHM, so we start to looking their graduates also now start picking up about this digital application. also in the faculty, built environment faculty, the graduate also start to, when we already adopt this knowledge on the digital application in their graduates. So this information, the graduates nowadays have this, whether they want to adapt of this or maybe they want to make this as their champion. I always say that if 20 of you, I want to choose for my organization, what are the different of you among the others? Okay. So digital application, digital twin knowledge, data analytical knowledge is become the extra knowledge that the organization will look. Okay, especially when you able to do the data crunching, data analyticals, data analytical activities, so they become the plus point for people to hire you on today era. Okay, I have a question from TS Rashidi. In general, how many percent that ICT component can be considered in modern FM initiative setup? Okay, I don't want to say on percentage wise, okay, because it's varies, but I can say like nowadays, if I want to implement the project compared to 2 years ago, okay, 2 years ago, I need to wait at least 2 or 3 months for me to start to install the solution. Recent deployment, we only need to wait 2 days to deliver the solutions, the original solution without customized, 2 or 3 days to install and client can start using it. Okay, so this is the, if you say the time frame, how fast that we can change. Last time we need to wait until the server been arrived, a lot of testing need to do, then only we can do the installation, only then after that the client can see the system up and running. But nowadays, I can say within one week, the client can start to access the system, start utilizing it, maybe start to transfer the data immediately to their transfer the data, or maybe do the startup of the data gathering or data entry to the system. The fastest that we have done is 4 months. Okay. T.S. Zainidi, in revolution of the construction industry has entered in the era that use IT expertise from BIM to digital transformation. In addition to the design and construction phase, the need for this technology in FM is very significant, making their preventive. However, the technology is seen to be receiving more attention and demand in the building sector when they compare to the infrastructure sector, such as highway. What is your opinion, Kim? Of course, we start BIM from the construction. Later on, we only know about, can I use BIM for the highway? Okay. Bear in mind, okay, BIM actually first been used in the highway, in the construction of the highway. Okay. I work in the, of course, those days we don't call Revit. Okay. Those days we call digital terrain model, DTM. Okay. Those days we don't call it BIM at the time. I remember I used it for constructing the, I'm not constructing, but I'm involved in the construction of the lintasan kedua, links. Okay. Those days we use these digital terrain models to start to calculate and to perform the transfer of the earth. Okay. So of course, because the highway, they don't use the people in the highway those days, they don't use the digital application, no internet. Okay. But right now, this is important. Okay. People want to know what happened in next kilometer. Okay. And without all this digital transformation, if the highway operator are not moving to that, so I believe they will be asked, whether the toll rate is the right toll rate. Okay? Because I want the information. So we want the information. If I were the future user of the highway, I don't want just the information about the traffic. I don't want just the information about the jam. I want the information about the weather. I want the information about what happened in next 10 kilometers in our weather. Whether it's raining, whether it's flooding. So they need to evolve. Okay. I believe that I remember that I involved in the designing, come up with the solution for Jambatan Kedua. Okay. Jambatan Kedua Sdn Bhd. Okay. So it's not just about the toll gates. Okay. It's not just about the CCTV or NPR, number plate recognition. It's the counting of the traffic. Even when we talk about the digital application, I want the reports of the incident fast to be processed. Then we can clear out. The incident report become the analysis because insurance company would like to have this information. So every call of the incident need to be recorded because it's been useful for the insurance claims. I believe that highways get that information because if they make a fault, so they're being sued by the end user. So, but again, by having this kind of digital transformation, the signages, digitals, so it gives a good experience to the highway user. Good experience because the signages, the right information displayed in the signages, the right location of the digital signages is not just for the sake to have a digital signages. So, or maybe you can save money instead of having a digital signages, put the information in the mobiles, announcement in the mobile. Whenever they enter to the highway, they receive the signal, welcome to the North-South Highway. Okay. So you are at now kilometer marker 120. I mean, these are the things that actually digital transformation, this is the information that they can harvest. From the counting of the cars in the highway, so translate it to information to be useful by the highway user. imagine like those days when we come up with the performance hub management to manage the bus stops, So I don't want to wait in the bus stop whereby I doesn't know when the bus will arrive. When I were in Barcelona, so the bus stop full whenever or maybe 5 minutes before the bus arrives. And the system said that the bus is 100 meters away. It's not about 5 minutes away. When you make a promise to somebody how long you can be here, you keep on telling 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Instead of that if something happened to the bus, that's until now they're still 100 meters away. So this is the change of information that actually you need to acquire, and then you need to transform to the information and distribute it to people. Not just go to the old practice, 5 minutes, even the LRT, 20 minutes. For the last 1 hour is 20 minutes. Okay. So if you promise with your wife, I think you got the hits. From where are you? You already said 20 minutes, now it's already 1 hour, you said 20 minutes, you never arrived. Okay? This is the things that we need to change. Okay? So my opinion about the infrastructure sector, we need to have this. I got people from Vietnam discuss with me how can we build the digital transformation for the highway. So of course people say, I want to have a 3D, I want to have start with a small thing that you can harvest fast, quick win. To have the 3D, to have a digital, to have the GIS thing, it take longer time for you to implement. But simple things. Incident management. Asset that impact to the incident. So this is the analysis. Where is the area that always have impacted to the accident? Change it. Okay. I hope I answer TS Zaidi question. So if you require to discuss more, feel free to discuss with me. But I think it's almost 9. Any more questions, guys? So maybe we'll discuss with CIDB and we will announce what are the next plan for future. If they still allow us to continue on these digital topics, we will start. If I'm interested to share with you how can we use this blockchain? We use the blockchain for managing facility. We are looking for the bigger perspective. We are looking for managing the PBT, the state. We are looking about that. How can we make use this digital FM or digital facility management with the blockchain application engine that we have to manage the facility of the PBT. And of course, to the peoples, to the facility that impacted highly to the people, not just the building, but we talk about the managing the city itself by having the blockchain application that we just created. I think will be launched last couple of months. So maybe I will do it maybe early next year to start to share how can we utilize our solution on blockchain for managing facility and become more useful integration elements that we can see. Okay, guys, I think in that time is almost 9. I will take one more question if anybody would like to ask. Hi, Satish. I think I have my friend from India join us.
Hi, Sharain. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure, and it's really very informative session, Sharain.
Yeah, so we will be designing a new solution, a new program next year. I think we will announce it next year.
Okay. That's good. Great.
Okay, guys, any question before I wrap up? So since it's already 9, I don't have any question. So I think it's very. I almost cover everything what our plan this year. I'm glad that we still have people interested to listen to this digital transformation element, digital solution, especially in facility management. We are not touching about how can we use IoT in FM yet. We are not touching the how can we use sensor that will link it to the cloud that integrated back to the solution or facility management solution yet, even though we already start implementing it by having the DIY sensor link it to the cloud, and you can use it for your condition assessment instead of you want to implement, you want to have a monitoring station, sensor, or maybe you want to reduce the impact of the client. They always complaining hot, heat in this area, but you can't prove it. Okay, so this is where the element of the IoT, the element of the sensor that link it to the cloud, you can bring anywhere, plug it for a while to confirm the situation. Then only then you have a data to prove to your client that yes, you are right, it's always hot. So instead of you against him, so you have data that supporting his complaint, and you use this data to tell your boss, the complaint is correct, and we already have the information. We monitor it for almost 10 days that we feel that we know what is the reason. So these are the solutions that actually make the fast result. Okay? Instead of you keep on, maybe you buy the complaint a coffee, tomorrow he complain again, So you need to put a good solution, a good, meaningful and justified solution, and people cannot fight back against you because you've been protected by the big data, by the fact and figure. Nobody will question you if you have big data in your hand. If you don't have data, definitely people will start against you, complain about, don't believe on whatever that you say. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. So thank you again to everybody. Thank you to CIDB also. And again, participants, please take out a few moments to fill the feedback form for you to obtain CCD and CPD point from CIDB. And the link is actually already been provided, and the feedback form, please feel free to fill the feedback form. Your feedback is important for me to improve for future activity or future webinar series, or maybe I need to have to submit the reports to the CIDB. I need to have your feedback in order for me if you would like us to create more session next year. Okay. So I will take this opportunity to thank all of you that always together following my webinar series. Some of you contributing the question, and I would like to thank also to CIDB again for giving me opportunity to share my little bit knowledge on digital transformation program, providing solution in digital FMs or digital construction in Malaysia or perhaps in other countries also. And hope we can see again next year. Thank you to everyone. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you on the next session. Assalamualaikum and good night.
Thank you, Shireen, and advance Happy New Year wishes to you and all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.